Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, your guy, DJ Youngs, back again. All right, man. Hey, got another episode coming to you, not live. All right, this is a podcast, so you're listening to a recording. And I know that you could be listening to it any place, anytime, anywhere. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, trying to cover all of the salutations. Greetings, everybody. All right, thank you for listening to me yet again. So on this episode, just a quick rundown. I'm going to have another kind of mix of the new news, so it's going to be some new information as well as just like some street talk, is like what kind of the rumors, what people hearing, which all of it, like I said, is news, but we'll just discuss it a little further like we did last episode, get into that. All right, then I'm going to roll into some prospects for next year, like guys that should be having a good college year this upcoming season and be top prospects for the draft next year. I know talking draft is early, so of course I'm not talking who's going 1, 2, 3. I'm just saying who should you be looking out for. Trying to inform you guys on some names you may not be familiar with or already familiar with that should be making a good splash in the season this upcoming year. All right, and then last, we got fun facts coming back. All right, man. So I'm going to drop some knowledge on y'all and on myself because it's a lot that I have the opportunity to learn there as well. All right. So just kicking it off real quick, man. Let's get into what's going on around the football world within the past week or half of a week, because clearly, you guys hear me twice a week. All right. So for starters, well, as you know, I usually like to start the show off with something, warm-hearted if I can. So luckily enough, something kind of came across. 41-year-old Keena Turner graduates with his daughter. He a former Purdue football player and played for the 49ers. So yeah, after all the years, I think he was only at Purdue for a certain amount of time. Then he went to the league. And then from there, as a linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers from 1980 to 1990, Turner was an, integral part of that dynasty that the Niners had at that time. All he's ever known is that, the highest level of achievement, and he was determined to apply it to, return to college at the age of 60. Okay. So, yeah, I think I just said 41 years old earlier, but I meant 41 years since he left Purdue. That's how long it's been. So 6 years old, decided to go back. I said the night of 2019 was slipping away fast, and there was still, more to do. As far as that was the time that he decided that he was going to go finish things up and get his last year in. He's 4-time Super Bowl champion. So, he definitely earned himself some great accolades. But he just wanted to make sure he was able to finish that out and did it in fashion with his daughter, which is a beautiful thing to do. Very poetic, if you ask me. So, yeah, congratulations to Keena Turner and his daughter, Ella, for both graduating from Purdue. All right. Next up, Central Michigan Chippewa's quarterback, John Keller, got released from the hospital nearly a month after being shot. I reported on that about a month ago, letting you guys kind of know about his situation. It had something to do with a party that they were at. But yeah, the quarterback, John Keller, has been released from the hospital. It was him and another student, Tyler Bunting, who was shot at a party on April 24th after a fight broke out in Deerfield Village apartment complex in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Keller had been on a ventilator and in intense care until after the shooting, after the shooting. But he got removed off the ventilator on May 1st and then just got released on the 21st. His father, Ray, tweeted on Friday that his son is being released and that the trauma team at the hospital that he was at saved his life. So shout out to them, man. Really shout out to all our first responders, nurses, doctors, everyone that's out there saving lives every day, man. It definitely shouldn't go overlooked just as much as we, give our great shout outs and love to troops and stuff when we find out somebody served our country. Feel like serving our country is what medical professions do as well. Police officers, everyone that is making sure they protect us or making sure they have what they need to do, what they need to know in order to save us medically. So shout out to all of you guys, man, for sure. Really appreciate it. I'm glad to hear that this young man is fine. It's always tough as you get older, especially. When you're a kid, life is just always golden. But as you get older, you kind of understand, what you're into, what you're getting into, and how life is really crazy. It's always, when you're looking at people younger, you just always wish the best for them. That's for sure. So I'm not trying to sit here and sound like I'm old or even act like I'm that old to just really be calling this young man a kid. But look, I got younger siblings around his age, and I know how much they still have to learn. So that's kind of where I see Keller at. But good job, man. I'm glad to hear. And again, just to shout out the specific hospital that was at Hurley Medical Center, okay, in Michigan. So shout out to them, especially the individuals on the trauma team that was able to help this young man. Cool beings. All right. Detroit police named a former Michigan State University basketball star as the suspect in a deadly shooting on late Saturday. Okay, so this is just more so the news. Somebody went to Michigan State. Keith Appling, he's wanting the connection to the shooting and the death of 66-year-old man, according to the police. The slain man was not immediately identified. Police said that Keith and the man got into an argument Saturday evening that escalated into a physical fight, and then Appling is accused of firing several shots, fatally wounding this man. He said he drove away from the scene and has not been captured. He faced drug charges in February 2020, and according to news outlets, was sentenced in December to 18 months probation. In 2017, he was sentenced to a year in jail for carrying a concealed weapon and resisting police. Appling played for Michigan State from 2010 to 2014. He also played basketball overseas and had two brief contracts with the Orlando Magic. So why did I report this basketball story? Well, it's more so just because we're talking about, this is a football podcast, but it's, when we're talking about NCAA and that transition for these young men in football, just as well as it is in basketball, this is why it's so important for them to be successful. I sit here and, like I said, I would try to start off with something nice, which was, the story about a dad and his daughter graduating together, which is beautiful. But, unfortunately, a lot of these sad situations happen here where, I give you the story about, somebody being involved, accused of a crime, or got arrested, and, a lot of these guys have to either be in college or they're young in the NFL. And the reason I say these guys have to succeed that should be the bigger focus, is because I feel like a lot of the time, these coaches, the coaching staff, these conferences, the NCAA, this money-hungry world, is looking just to use them for their talents on teams. Now, not everybody. Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be some bad apples and some good apples, as we hear that cliche term. I understand that. But a lot of times, like I said, it's like when you're scouting, they're looking like, oh, look how big, how strong, how amazing this guy is. And no matter what their background is, they, as long as they have what it takes to be able to get into the university appropriately, then usually they take them in and do whatever they need to do to develop them into a player, but not into a man sometimes, man. I would say team sports like football, track, baseball. Well, I can't speak too much on baseball, but it was enough for me to notice a little bit when I played it. But these things help you grow. Help you grow into the age that you're, maturing into at the time. And, hopefully the coaching staff are usually mentors. So where I'm getting at is to see Mr. Keith be in this type of situation is tough to watch. Like, where were the people while he was at Michigan State, when he literally played for 4 years, making sure he was good to go through life? He was there for 4 years. A lot of times these guys only play one. Especially the guys that make it to the league, they play one. Sometimes some guys stay a little longer. But showing that he was able to stay there for 4 years shows that he had something going. He was able to stay out of trouble for that long. But a lot of times when they go back home, it's more troubling, which clearly Mr. Keith had to go back permanently after he didn't last long in the NBA. So to the coaches, to the staff of, like, not just Michigan State, but all universities everywhere, man, really just relying on you guys the same way we trust teachers in elementary schools and middle schools to look out for our kids every day of the school year, So people might make the joke and say school is a daycare or whatever. Well, school is probably the number 2, if not number 1 on some cases, molding grounds for future. And I'm not just talking about the regular knowledge they give them, I'm talking about the interaction they have with each other, other kids, people with authority. Like, that's how you go into life. Half the stuff, if not more, that I learned growing up, especially the stuff I wasn't supposed to know, it came from peers and stuff that I heard, saw at school. Not at home, because, at home, people always trying to protect you. So, school, like colleges, you're still working with kids, man. Just help them out. Get them on the right track so that they don't have to be in situations like this. My condolences go out to the family of the victim that was lost. Again, this is all allegedly, so Keith Appling has not been charged with anything. He is just a suspect, apparently. So, as I always say, I just hope that whatever justice is needed in this situation, I hope it happens. I hope they catch who actually did it, and justice is served, especially for whatever that family is expecting. All right. Now, enough of that soapbox. Let's get to something a lot more sweeter. Bring it back up. You see the roller coaster I'm taking you guys on today? Just a slight one. All right. New England Patriots, their team plane is being used this past week to give flight to China's vaccine diplomacy. Well, what does that mean? Well, the New England Patriots team's plane had delivered 500,000 Chinese-made COVID vaccines to El Salvador, and in the process, inadvertently inserted itself into a testy geopolitical fight for influence in Latin America. So, I mean, my thing on this article, which came from ESPN, I don't know why they had to put emphasis on China's vaccine. It makes me feel a little weird when they put it like that, because, like, what are you trying to say? Why couldn't you just say vaccines? I don't know. Is China's better? Is it cheaper? Or are you trying to be derogatory? I'm not sure. But the Pats plane was greeted upon arrival in San Salvador early Wednesday this past week, just after midnight, by China's top diplomat to the Central American country. The team says it had been aware of the flight but didn't arrange it. This was done by a company that leases out the plane when the Patriots aren't using it. Okay, so let's clear that up. It isn't necessarily the Patriots that sent it. It was just used. Their plane was just used. So it's a Boeing 767. Pretty famous plane there. And it emblows with the 6-time Super Bowl champion, red, white, and blue logo. Pulled up to them down there in El Salvador, and they said they would always be a friend and partner of El Salvador, is what China said. So I guess they wanted to make sure that they can help. I mean, regardless, I'm pretty sure if the natives don't know who it came from officially, I'm pretty sure they're still happy regardless and very appreciative to have those. Vaccines are what we're hoping to really save the world. We were in a pretty tough situation a year and some change ago, and still just a year ago, it was just very uncomfortable, confusing, dangerous. The world's changing now. I mean, we're getting into the summer months now, or at least here in America, we're getting into the summer months now, and people are getting vaccinated, so people are getting more active, going back outside, having some fun. I know I have a lot of people that I'm around that are making those transitions, being fully vaccinated, and I'm just hoping that, we can all be safe and have some fun. All right. So let's talk Houston Texans. No, I'm not going to say anything about Deshaun Watson. We haven't even really got any updates on that case ever since we heard that the lawyer that was representing the women tried to reach out to Deshaun's team about having a conversation, which, like I said, could have something to do around the settlement. All right, but the Houston Texans signed Jeff Driscoll to a 1-year deal worth up to $2.5 million. So they added another quarterback. They already had Tyrod. They drafted one, so then they got Jeff here, and they are giving him $2.5 million. He's now the 5th quarterback on the team's roster, because they also had Ryan Finley, who I just forgot to mention. So it's Deshaun Watson. Back up with Deshaun is Tyrod Taylor. Back up to him is the newly drafted Davis Mills. And then backing up to him is Ryan Finley. Last but not least, Jeff Driscoll. So what is this, a battle? I'm not sure. Adding Driscoll gives Houston more depth, given the uncertainty of what's going to happen with Deshaun in his future. But Watson, who asked for this trade back in January and is facing his lawsuits, doesn't really look like he's going to have the opportunity to go anywhere, at least not till everything's been settled. Give you some information on Driscoll. He spent his 2020 season with the Denver Broncos, but was released by the team earlier this month. His 1-year deal has a $1 million base salary with the $250,000 signing bonus and bonuses for playing time and for being on the Texans' 46-man roster. Last year with the Denver Broncos, Driscoll made 3 appearances, completing 54.7% of his passes for 432 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So, as said, good move. It could be a debate. It's always up to just the person who looks at it as, there's a lot of uncertainty going on in Houston in general. Not even just the poor Texans, and I don't mean poor as in like I feel sorry for them, but it's like poor as in it's sad. They're sad. It's a sad team right now. It's a sad situation. I'm sorry for people that have to be there and don't want to be there, but hey, you got to work, right? And then, the other sports teams are having their thing going, man. It's just, I don't know. All right. So, it's time for a break. We're going to take a very quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some things. I'm going to dive into a little more hot topics that have come up that I want to chime in on. So, we're going to discuss that when we come back, so stay tuned.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Thank you for sticking around. You are tuned in to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network with you guy, DJ Youngs, man. All right, we're on to segment number 2, which is continuing of segment number 1, which is just street talk, new news, new talk. I guess if you combine the two, huh? That's what we're looking at here now, man. So, I feel like it's been longer than a month, so probably a month and a half to 2 months. The NFL mandated that a few more skilled players can wear single-digit numbers, including wide receivers. So, someone else that has taken advantage of this new rule is Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown. Now, with a name like that, you already know he has to get something a lot flyer than the number 15 he was already wearing. He will be switching into the number 5, a.k.a. my number, going into this season. Interesting enough, 15 was the number that I had wore when I was on JV, I believe, or was the... No. I wore varsity year. I wore 15 varsity year, but 5 is my actual number that I prefer now in college. So anytime I create a player on Madden and stuff, 5 is a go-to. All right, but yeah, the rule that now allows players from these positions to get single digits just said that if you're switching this year after they have technically already made the jerseys, then you'll have to buy up the inventory, which I don't know if somehow Hollywood has got a loophole, or if he's actually doing that. I'm not sure. There's just one thing about him wearing a number 5, and the talk around that is because the last person to wear number 5 for the Baltimore Ravens was the Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco, that just made his way over to the Broncos. So I guess the reason it's a lot of talk is because even though the Ravens don't have any retired numbers, which they should by now, there's been numbers that just haven't been worn because of who the player was. So I guess it almost seems disrespectful because they're to some people because they feel like Joe Flacco should get more respect, even though we've seen how he looked the last few years and how he got out of there. But numbers that have not been worn against. There's 4 numbers that have not been worn against since that player played. One, of course, Ray Lewis, number 52. That one should be retired. Jonathan Ogden, number 75. Ed Reed's number 20. That should be retired. And Terrell Suggs, number 55. So I think people were assuming that Flacco would have been in the same boat. But, hey, look, just because you had one good season, I don't think Philadelphia is going to, statue is one thing, but I was going to say I don't think Philadelphia is going to give Nick get his number retired. But I think the whole purpose behind retiring numbers and the significance of it, of the respect, is because when somebody does something so outstanding in a number, in a specific jersey for years, no one really wants to see a different name above that number on that same jersey. It just doesn't hit the same. You know, like just imagine a red and black jersey. On the front it says Chicago, and it says number 23 on the back, number 23, and above that 23 you see Hernandez, Jackson, Young, Franklin. Anything but Jordan just wouldn't look right. You get where I'm going now? It'd just be looking ridiculous. So that's the whole thing here. But to defend Hollywood, I don't think no one thinks of Joe Flacco when they think of the number 5 on a Ravens jersey. I have to be honest. I didn't know that until I read it that was his number. Now, if I see a 52 on a Ravens jersey, I expect the back of it to say Lewis. If I see a 20, especially with the the type of print, the font number that they use for Ravens is a little different than most teams. So seeing a 20 and anything on the back of it except for Reed would look weird. But for the number 5, my number, not seeing Flacco above it is just fine. It's actually preferred. Brown, you good with me? I'll give you permission to wear the number 5. Very excited, man. As people may or may not know, number 5 is the number he wore in college as he was setting records on the team. So it comes with, I guess, good luck for him. It should. He did make a post. He said 5 is the symbol of God's grace, which I love that. He said he's back in Cinco. For everyone who copped the 15, I love and appreciate you. I will make that 5 worth it. God's child, call God. God's grace. It's amazing. That's great, Hollywood. All right, now listen. Thing though, I now need you to be the top receiver in the game. Okay, now that you want to pull this, if you're gonna wear the 5, you got to be the best receiver in the game. Which leads me to something that's been talked on the streets earlier this week, man. Bleacher Report, Gridiron posted which division is most loaded at receiver, and it dropped a couple, and I just have to tell you because it's clearly one that outweighs the rest. Okay, so let me tell you the groups first. So the NFC South, where there's Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley on the Falcons. There's Michael Thomas on the Saints. Then you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, all on the Bucks, and then Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. Okay. All right. Well, let me finish saying all of them first, and then I'll get into my thoughts on it. All right. The NFC West. There's DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green on the Cardinals, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett on the Seahawks, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp on the Rams, and then Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel on the 49ers. All right. AFC North, where there's Odell and Jarvis on the Browns. There's Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool on the Steelers, Hollywood Brown on the Ravens, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the Bengals. And last but not least, the NFC East. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, all on the Cowboys. Kenny Galladay, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. All right. Now, we heard some good names. And the reason, of course, you probably like, wait, why wasn't such and such names? Because remember, this is by division. All right. So with that being said, you have to account for the teams that's contributing in it, the guys' stat lines, and the success that comes with those guys. Now, we know how I feel about the NFC East, so I'm not going to talk about that. But then on the opposite end, you know how competitive I always say the AFC North is. Okay? But for this one, when we're talking about who has the best receiver core by division, just going off these four, so I'm not going to bring in another one just to keep it simple for us here. I just have to go with what some people may not realize is the NFC West, who has like a lot of star power there. So, okay, AJ Green just got over there. AJ Green has been doing his thing for the Bengals for so long, though. Okay? Hopefully, and then, first of all, like, no offense to Jamar Chase, but he ain't did nothing in the league yet to where we could just say that he's a top receiver in the NFL. You know, he was a top receiver in college. You got to come prove it over here, man. Think about it. There's so many guys that were, you know, not thought of as being like the top 5 kind of guy like Jamar Chase was, but could definitely have a better career than him. For starters, DK Metcalf right now. DK Metcalf is hot. And I mean that in, you know, a lot of teams would definitely want this guy on their team. DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is arguably the best receiver in the league. Okay? Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett's getting paid. Why? Because Tyler Lockett knows how to get in the end zone. Tyler Lockett is a scoring maniac for the Seahawks. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. Did we forget that these guys went to the Super Bowl because they were basically unstoppable? Their offense, playing against Kansas City, had one of like the highest scoring games in NFL history. Brandon Ayuk, who was still in the draft, with Deebo Samuel, who also was a big part of the 49ers when they just went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. I mean, this is a division that I speak about and say that is also competitive because these are all teams that are contenders for this, you know, going to go to the Super Bowl each year. And it's mainly because of the skills they have on the field on offense. Now, when it comes to defense, I have to give the Rams their props because they have definitely like the number one defense, you know, one of the most elite ones for sure that keeps them competing. But when it comes to everybody else, I mean, yes, you have to think about the quarterback and receiver situations. So the Seahawks, of course, I'm thinking of Russ, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. When we go to San Francisco, I mean, quarterback, you know, situation could be a number of ways, assuming that it's how most of us believe it's going to be, though, and not anything else different. Then we know who's going to be the quarterback. You know, somebody that's already taken them to the Super Bowl. It's gotten him, you know, self a new weapon in Brandon, and Deebo Samuel has been doing his thing. All right, with the run game that they've continue to have and making play action so powerful. That's why. All right. And then we just know that seeing Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and AJ Green is going to be just beautiful. Now, let me not disrespect the NFC South. I definitely have to give them their props. Julio's had his, you know, injury situation and a lot of things going on in the league with that. But him and Calvin Ridley with Matt Ryan, elite. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown with Tom Brady, I had to give you to you. You know, clearly these guys just won a Super Bowl. And receivers were a big part of that. Okay, so giving a shout out to them. Paying my respect to them. I don't want anybody to say I disrespected Tampa Bay because you just can't at this time. It's not possible. All right, but with that being said, if it's not clear, my winner is NFC West. If I had to rank them, it'd be NFC West. Yeah, as a group, as a core, it'd have to be NFC West, then NFC South. And then, and then the AFC North. Okay, and yes, that's with Jamar Chase not catching the ball yet. I have to give them their props. Odell may have, you know, everything going on that's Odell, but he's still an elite receiver. So is Jarvis Landry, Juju also. I mean, this may be a troublesome group is what I'm saying, but they get the job done. So that leaves the NFC East in last, but don't sleep on them. They because just remember that the Cowboys with Amari, CD, and Gallup had been ranked the top receiving core for a team. Forgot about who put that up, what site said that. But while we're talking about receivers, man, I mentioned Julio. Let's talk about some of these Julio ideas, some of these trades, man, where he could end up in 2021. So I've heard of a number of places. I've heard of a number of places gearing up to trade for him. Instead of getting into what those teams are, let's just talk about the teams in general and how it would look with Julio Jones on their offense here. Okay, so of course, always an option is where he is. So in Atlanta, now Julio, number 11. Jones on the back of the jersey. Been there for like 12 years. Done some great numbers. Him and Matt. It's kind of hard to see him leave. It's always hard seeing guys go from a team after so long. After doing so many great things for them. After being successful and being in a Super Bowl with that team. Okay? But, we still see them leave a lot of times. You see Tom Brady's in a Buccaneer uniform. J.J. Watts is in a Cardinals uniform. Richard Sherman, 49ers uniform. In the process of possibly changing, though. When you see stuff like that, it's different. But what jersey can we see him in? So, first team up in talks, Indianapolis Colts. Julio Jones, go out there. On the other side of the field from T.Y. Getting passes thrown from Carson Wentz? Nope. I don't care if they want him, if they pay for him. Don't nobody want to see that. Don't do that to Julio, man. That's not what we want for him. We want great things from Julio. We want to see him be great. While he's healthy, I want to see him, achieving only more greatness. Not going backwards. Indianapolis, not a good choice. All right. Next up, the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay. Go out there with Herbert. Okay. Be a solid 2 receiver. I think that one's okay. I like that one a little bit better. Okay. Yep. I could see that. Baltimore Ravens. Because clearly they're just not going to stop until they have every receiver from everywhere. But, him out there with Hollywood. I would like it just because I think that they would be a very pass-happy team at that point. You have either Lamar running around somewhere or he's going to throw it. So, offense would look like a lot of fun. Let's also not forget how aggressive Julio Jones is. People might have missed him because of what his injury absences, but let's not forget how dominant this guy is. Tall and strong, and will go up and get the ball. So that's somebody that Baltimore could definitely benefit from because they don't have that. They got the speedsters, the cross guys, but that downfield threat, Julio could definitely fulfill that for them. You know who else he could fill that for? Who is one of the teams that I heard about is gearing up to trade and get him? New England Patriots. That one could be the one. As far as him being the number one guy and everything too. Which I'm pretty sure he'd be interested in when it comes to talks of him being traded. I'm sure he wants to go somewhere where he's looked at the most. In New England, it could definitely be that place. They are in the market for a number one receiver. They got good pieces, don't get me wrong. They definitely got good pieces in there right now. But as far as a true number one receiver, which I think Julio can still do. I think he'll be fine as a number 2. But I think he still can handle number 1 at this day and age. It'll be out of this entire list. I think New England would be that for him. Now, next place, San Francisco. San Francisco 49ers with the guys that I just named. So we're talking Deebo Samuel. We're talking Brandon Ayuk and Julio. Okay. Interesting to watch. That at least it'll be. I think it'll be interesting to watch. But I don't know. I might like New England just a little bit more than San Francisco. But the number one favorite of just watching mayhem unleash in the league is if he was to go to the Tennessee Titans. Man, let Julio get on that outside. You have him, AJ, King Henry in the backfield. Oh, man, yeah, that could be something nice to watch. Tannehill's already, doing better. Tannehill's doing better. So, with that, with him doing better, and it just opens it up because, like I always mention, how dangerous Henry is to the point that defenses have no choice but to watch him stay alert, stay close so that he cannot break out or get into open field to stiff arm somebody across the field. So that opens up what? Huge deep threat options, which is what Julio can come there and do. Okay? But that's my 10 cents and my thought piece on Julio's situation, receivers, stuff like that. And it's time for another quick break. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to get into some of these young guys that are still in college, but that have great aspirations and possibilities of being someone special in next year's draft. All right, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast with your boy, your guy, DJ Youngs. All right, so in this segment here, man, I want to talk about some of these 2022 NFL prospects. So these are the young guys that are going to be leading their teams this upcoming season, which you got to remember, guys, it's almost like we're just now about to get back to football on both NCAA level and NFL level because last year was so different. People opted out on both ends. Scheduling was different on both ends. Crowds, all that stuff was different, man. The past year is always going to be an outlier. In some cases, you could look at it and say it doesn't need an asterisk. In some cases, you feel like it do. But going into the next year with things going back to normal for the most part, I want to talk about some of these guys, man. Some of these young athletes at these top schools. Some not even top schools, but it doesn't matter because they're still going to make a difference enough to where they made it on this list. Now, my intel here is coming from someone that's been vetted long enough to have the respect, and that's Mel Kiper. In this article, he discusses top 25 prospects, best by position. Okay. And it goes like this, man. I'm going to start off. I'll give you the top 25 prospects going into this season. And then we'll discuss by position who are the top people in them. And again, I'm naming them just because I want you guys to know. One, I want the guys that are on the list to be able to hear their name and know that they've been recognized. And then two, I would like for you guys to possibly go and do your research or look out for these guys when you're watching these games. If you're a fan, me myself, I plan on tuning into college sports a lot more this upcoming year. So football and basketball, I want to watch a lot more if possible. You got to know that there's a ton of schools, so it's always something on. You just got to catch it at the right time. I'm actually installing a TV in my studio, so that gives me another space to check the games out in. All right. But start at the top of his list, man. His number one prospect going to next year is DN Kavion Thibodeau out of Oregon. He's the edge rusher, standing at 6'5", 250 pounds, and only a junior. That's the impressive part to me. So that means this could be his first year coming out if need be. But, man, a DN, if it's on defense, it's typically a DN that can be this high on the list to take number one, right? All right, number two, LSU. Number two, LSU's own Derek Stingley Jr., the cornerback at 6'1", 195 pounds, another junior. He'd been starting since his freshman year in 2019 and has played more than 1,300 defensive snaps. So clearly he's earned his spot, man. I understand why he's on this board. I understand why he'll be going so high if he keeps up and stays healthy this season and have a great season. Wishing him best of luck. Spencer Rattler, who is projected to be the number one quarterback coming, into the next draft. Quarterback at Oklahoma, for those that don't know. He's a third-year sophomore. I believe, they gave everybody extra year because of COVID, or he got redshirted 1 or 2. 6'1", 205. He's not the biggest quarterback, but he has an elite arm. We know how they get down in Oklahoma when it comes to the quarterback position. It's a bit unbelievable. He can throw 50-yard strikes with a flick of a wrist. He kind of got off to a bumpy start last season, getting benched for a couple series against Texas before leading a comeback win. Important there. But in the final 7 games, he had 15 touchdown passes and only 2 interceptions while averaging 9.8 yards per attempt. All right. That was just the stats from last year, man. This guy here, he threw for 28 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions in his first season as Oklahoma's starter. Great kid, though. Number 4 is Evan Neal, offensive tackle for Alabama. He's 6'7", 360. What more do I need to say? Leave that there. Number 5, Texas A&M's DeMarvin Leal. He's a defensive lineman at Texas A&M. He played defensive end for the Aggies, but he wouldn't be, surprised if he gets moved around. Ended up in a 3 technique. He's very flexible. There could be a lot of things he could be used for. He's been successful in what he's doing, as he's had 2.5 sacks and 47 tackles, 1 pick and a forced fumble just last season. That there is why A&M had the right moves made to make them in the season number 4 ranked. All right, going into next season, Jimbo's. Oh man, look, I don't think I'm missing a game of Texas A&M football this upcoming season. Gotta admit, I haven't been excited for football at A&M since 2014. 2014, then a little bit in 2015 when we were getting Kyler Murray, and I thought that meant something until it didn't. All right, number 6, Christian Harris, inside linebacker at Alabama. Number 7, Kenyon Green, offensive lineman, Texas A&M, 6'4", 325 junior. He's a former 5-star prospect, ranked number 3 on the 2019 ESPN 300, just ahead of Evan Neal. They say he could be the Elijah Vera Tucker of the 2022 class. So we'll see. That's big shoes to fill. Number 8, Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. Number 9, Kier Elam, cornerback out of Florida. Jackson Kirkland, offensive tackle out of Washington, 6'7", 295 senior. Sheesh. He started 25 games at right guard in 2018 and 19 before moving to left tackle. So this is another guy that's very flexible, can move around. Number 11, Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, only 6 foot, 193, kind of on the smaller end. But don't underestimate him. He's very outstanding and very talented. He caught 43 passes for 723 yards and 6 touchdowns last season. 37 of those catches and 5 of those TDs came when he was lined up in the slot. So somebody that can move around. Look, you keep seeing why these guys are so high on where they are. Sam Howell, man, number 12. I forgot about Sam Howell. Sam Howell, quarterback for North Carolina, 6'1", 225. He has 68 touchdown passes, only 14 picks in 25 games over the past 2 seasons. All right, hey, look, this is somebody that they may say is better than Spencer Rattler. Don't be surprised. It's definitely going to be a big compete to see who goes first in the draft out of those 2 guys next year. Number 13, Mississippi State's offensive tackle, Charles Cross. Number 14, George Karlaftis, DN out of Purdue. Number 15, Malik Willis, quarterback out of Liberty, which, remember, Liberty kind of had an outstanding season this past season. It was pretty much fun to watch, Willis, who is an Auburn transfer, light up opponents, man. This past season with Liberty, he threw for 2,260 yards with 20 touchdowns and 6 picks, added 944 rushing yards with 14 more scores. He has a live arm, really flick of the wrist, ball flying down the field, zipping down there, really. And then, he just made some amazing plays. Plenty of highlight reels coming from this guy. He threw some record-breaking things at the school. He's in his 4th year, but classified as a junior. So he could do some big things for sure going into this. Number 16, Drake Jackson, outside linebacker, USC. 17, Treylon Burks, wide receiver, Arkansas. JJ Nagbear, outside linebacker, South Carolina. Andrew Booth, Jr., he's a cornerback out of Clemson. Isaiah Spiller, running back, Texas A&M, 6'1", 225 junior. The third Aggie in this list, right? You see a lot of Aggies on here. Spiller's super explosive. He had 1,036 yards and 9 touchdowns just last season, but you got to remember he was moving in and out with some other guys that they have there helping out, I guess. At A&M in the running back position, they are really good in that position, if you ask me. He had 651 yards after first contact, which ranked him 7 in FBS and was only 60 yards behind number 1, who was Najee Harris. Spiller did, take on 63 fewer carries than Harris. Spiller needs to, improve probably catching, but he's a running back, so it's not being held against him. But he dropped 4 passes on 27 targets. But like I said, 63 fewer carries with being rotated with other guys. Don't be surprised if this is not accurate and somebody else steps to the plate for A&M, because like I said, they're pretty loaded at that position. So even though Spiller's really good, I don't know if Jimbo's going to continue to move things and shake things up the way he was doing this past season, or if he's going to commit to one guy. We'll see. Number 21, John Mechie III, wide receiver, Alabama. You know, Alabama always has receivers for days. It's literally like you almost have to wait till you're a senior to really start because they have great guys always waiting in line there. But last season, he caught 55 passes for 916 yards and 6 touchdowns for one of the best offenses in college football history, as we all know what they did. It's crazy how these last 2 years have went in college football. First, LSU was pretty much record-breaking on all ends, and then Alabama came back and did the same, which we're all pretty used to. Number 22 is Zach Harrison, the DN at Ohio State. He's 6'6", 265. So big, long, can get around with no issues. He is a massive force, if we're being completely honest. He has 5.5 sacks and 9.5 total tackles for loss in the 2 seasons at Ohio State he has played. He has double-digit sack potential and should be one of the best defensive ends going into this next year, especially in his conference. Akeem Kwono, the guard out of NC State, 6'4", 325. Man, you're not getting around this young man. He is definitely going to make sure that he is protecting the quarterback. Number 24, Ahmed Gardner, cornerback out of Cincinnati. He's real long, man, quick. Has no problem with tackling. He doesn't do all that chopping at the feet and messing things up. He has 6 interceptions, 2 pick sixes that he ran back in the 2 seasons he's been with Cincinnati. So good coverage, good hands. Last but not least, number 25, Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State. I thought Chris would have been a little higher, honestly. Because I mean, he made the decision to return back to school and, you know, for his senior year, not going to the draft. So I guess maybe that's why they bumped him down, just because he might fall off, I guess they're predicting. Maybe. Who knows? But yeah, he keeps developing. He keeps getting better. I appreciate what he's trying to do here. Not mad at that at all. He played both, you know, outside and the slot. This past season, he caught for 50 passes, 729 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He ranked 12 in the FBS in yards per route run, so 3.2, as he was targeted often by Justin Fields, who's now in the league playing for the Bears. That was all on vertical throws. Chris should easily crack 1,000 yards this time around, for sure. He's going to be the number 1 receiver, I believe, and he's going to score possibly 10 touchdowns or more. All right. Don't be surprised. Okay, so let's talk about positions, man. Give some more guys better highlights. So as of right now on this list here, you got at quarterback Spencer at number 1 and Sam number 2, Malik at number 3. So those are 3 guys that were just on the list. Now people that were not on the list, Carson Strong out of Nevada, 5, Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati, 6, Keaton Slavis out of USC, 7, JT Daniels out of Georgia, 8, Phil Jurkovec, Boston College, 9, Jaden Daniels, Arizona State, and Emory Jones at number 10, playing for Florida. All right. Those gentlemen are the quarterbacks that I believe are going to have the best chance of having great records, great seasons underneath great coaches that will hopefully get them where they're trying to go with their end goal, which is the NFL, I believe, possibly. All right. So Texas A&M's Isaiah Spiller is the number 1 running back ranked, which is exciting. All right. I mean, you got to give the props to the O-line too. When it comes to running backs getting all of this recognition, you gotta think of that. All right. All right, so number 2 is Breece Hall, Iowa State. Hall is, you know, fun to watch. He breaks tackles like it's nothing, and he rushed for 1,572 yards and 21 touchdowns last season. We got another Texas A&M at number 3, so you see what I mean? Look, there's 2 of them in the top 3 ranked. A&M has a running back core. And don't get in that third string, man. A chain. Don't the one that was actually the bowl MVP. look, I'm scared. I'm scared of A&M right now, man. I'm excited. I'm not. I always try not to be biased all here, guys. I promise. But ball's looking good over there. Anaya Smith, number 3. Oh man, and look, good things, great things. Number 4, Tyler Goodson out of Iowa. Number 5, Letty Brown, West Virginia. Brown actually showed, more receiving skill in 2020, catching 31 passes. Very impressive if you ask me. I don't know about you guys. Rashad White at number 6 at Arizona State. Number 7 is Jaron Ely out of Mississippi. Number 8, Muhammad Abrim out of Minnesota. 9, Zamir White out of Georgia. And 10, Kennedy Brooks out of Oklahoma. Brooks opted out of last season. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2018 and 19, though. So, coming back, ain't going to keep at it, I'm sure. Wide receivers. This is where it get interesting. It's always tough because, we're talking wide receivers. That's literally like a list that should be extended to about 50 when it comes to college football. Receivers are, look, man, a lot of talents over there. Sometimes can be overlooked depending on what's going on in the offense or where the school is or who it is. But there's a lot of great receivers out there. So, talking about a few of them. The top 10 right here off this list. Number 1 is Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. Number 2, Traylon Burks out of Arkansas. John Mechie III out of Alabama. Then Chris Olive out of Ohio State. Those are all 4 guys that I mentioned already. Going on to number 5, Drake London out of USC. 6 is George Pickens out of Georgia. And Pickens is really a good player. He had tore his ACL in March and is not clear on how much he'll actually get to play this upcoming season. But if he does get to play sometime, keep an eye out for him. Trust me. Jahan Dotson, Penn State. Justin Ross out of Clemson. And Ross missed all of last season with a spinal condition. But he has first-round potential if he could stay healthy this season and still, contribute to the team. All right. Jalen Tolbert, South Alabama. And then David Bell out of Purdue. Top 10 guys right now. Again, some could fall, some can move up, some could disappear altogether, and some could pop up out of nowhere and take the place of someone else on this list. Okay? I'm not kidding. That's straightforward, man. Yeah. All right. No, going to tight ends. Another one that A&M is leading the way with Jalen Watermeyer, Texas A&M. Watermeyer had 46 catches and 6 touchdowns last season, and he lined up as a slot receiver at times. Very versatile guy, very strong. I actually think, this guy could go first round if he's used the right way. If the quarterback is as good, I think, from rumors, King will be starting for them, but I know it's still a battle. And we'll hear more about that as we get closer to the time. Number 2, Jaleel Billingsley, Alabama. Number 3, Cade Otton, Washington. Number 4, Austin Stogner out of Oklahoma. Number 5, Josh Weil out of Cincinnati. Number 6, Charlie Kohler out of Iowa State. Kohler makes tough catches look easy, by the way. He had 7 touchdowns and averaged 13.4 yards per reception just last year. So, ridiculous guy, man. Iowa State that's their secret weapon for sure. Number 7, Trey McBride, Colorado State. Number 8, Jeremy Ruckert, Ohio State. Number 9, James Mitchell, Virginia Tech. Number 10, Braden Galladay, Clemson. All right. Offensive tackles. I mean, A&M's on here again, just saying. But you got Evan Neal at Alabama. Then Kenyon Green, Texas A&M. We already discussed. Charles Cross, Mississippi State. Jackson Kirkland, Washington. Zion Nelson, Miami, Florida. Darren Kennard, Kentucky. Thayer Muford, Ohio State. Penn State, Rasheed Walker. Keelan Disick, Arizona State. And number 10, Wanya Morris, Oklahoma. Nelson. So Zion Nelson, he took a big leap as a pass blocker last season, but he want to see, some more of that, if, not better in 2021. I'm pretty sure he's only gotten better in this offseason like most people have. When it comes to Wanya Morris at Oklahoma, Wanya was a 5-star prospect out of high school, transferred from Tennessee to Oklahoma in January, and he's expected to start for them. So usually when guys come over to the new school, things change a little bit, all right? That's what it's looking like on the tackles. I'm not going to do the guards. I'm sorry, guys, or the centers. Not going to disrespect y'all, but just saying. I'm going to touch on the D ends. The D ends, and then the linebackers and DBs really fast. All right, so keep up. All right. So, D ends. Defensive end, Kavion Thibodeau out of Oregon, like I've already discussed, and DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M. And then we got George Karlaftis out of Purdue, Zach Harrison, Ohio State, Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan. And Hutchinson's 2020 season ended during the Wolverines' third game after he suffered a leg injury, but he's coming back. All right. Maja Sanders, Cincinnati. Tariq Smith, Ohio State. Justin Iboji, Alabama. Scott Patchman, Colorado State. And Xavier Thomas, Clemson. Justin Iboji out of Alabama. He didn't have any sacks last season, but he has, a very big room for himself that he has grown in, and I'm pretty sure shoes that he's planning to fill as he do play for such an elite team. Okay, and then Scott Patchin had 5.5 sacks last season. Just keep that noted. All right, inside linebackers. All right, the ones we definitely want to address real quick. Christian Harris out of Alabama, Owen Pappu out of Auburn, Devin Lloyd, Utah, Henry Tutu, or it might be Toa, Alabama, Peyton Wilson, NC State, Nakobe Dean, Georgia, Ventrell Miller, Florida, Aaron Hansford, Texas A&M, Quay Walker, Georgia, and Jack Sanborn, Wisconsin. All right. DBs, corners. You've heard me speak about Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU already. Kier Elam, Florida. Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson. Ahmad Gardner, Cincinnati. Roger McCreary out of Auburn. And McCreary broke up 18 passes and picked off 4 passes over the past 3 seasons. Trent McDuffie, Tawan Mullen, who had 3 picks and added 3.5 sacks last season. Maya Wright, Mikhail Wright out of Oregon, Saban Banks out of Ohio State, and then Josh Jobe out of Alabama. And Jobe had 11 pass breakups. All right. And then finally, last but not least, safeties. You got Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame, Tariq Smith out of Georgia, who was transferred to Georgia from West Virginia, Daxton Hill out of Michigan. Hill has really good physical traits, but a lot of people are expecting him to, affect the game a little bit more. I want to see him do more that change outcomes, right? Jalen Catalan, Arkansas. Jordan Battle, Alabama. Brandon Joseph, Northwestern. And Joseph tied for the FBS lead with 6 interceptions. All right. Trey Sterling, Oklahoma State. Bubba Bolden, Miami. Lewis Sign out of Georgia, and Colby Harville Peel. So these are the people that you want to look out for. Okay, you want to see what's going on, learn more about things of that nature. So, hey, you heard it first. I mean, if you heard your school, the one you like to rep, or the one you live closest to, then I hope you write their names down, man. Check those guys out. They're doing great things out there for their universities. Okay, but hey, real quick, it's time for a break. Then we're going to get into some fun on our last segment, so we'll be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. All right, man. Hey, time for the last segment. I hope you've enjoyed the show thus far. About to get into some fun things. This is possibly what you may even been stay tuned in this long for. I feel like I have, even though I'm the one that is reporting everything, I've been most excited about this right here, right now, and that is fun fact time, specifically NFL fun facts, brought to you by NFL Fun Facts Instagram page. Okay, I think they always have a lot of great things on here. That's why I like this one specifically. But yeah, man, I like doing these just because not only, like I said, am I learning and having fun with it, but I know, there's people out there that enjoy this kind of stuff just like me. But depending on how you live your life, it isn't like you're just going to look for it. Because me, I'm not on Instagram like that. So, and I don't follow this page or too many pages because I'm not even on there to go follow them. But hey, man, this stuff is kind of, more up-to-date stuff as it go. We've done this one before. It's going backwards. So if you hear something that is a little different, or a little kind of dated, then that's why. Now, this is going to include a lot of things about the rookies that just got drafted as well. So you might hear some NCAA stuff. But, hey, let's hear some great things about some great guys. So, starting off, since I just prepared you for the rookie guys, did you know, this is a fact, before his breakout junior year, Zach Wilson made 10-hour drives to Southern California to work with his quarterback tutor named John Beck. And when COVID-19 canceled BYU's spring workouts, Wilson stayed in California for a few months and worked out with John and worked for DoorDash on Saturday nights to help pay for gas and expenses. Isn't that very nostalgic? Of the 4 QBs on the Packers roster, Kurt Benkert is the only one who is not a first-round pick. Now that Drew Brees has retired, Tom Brady is more wins over 500 than any active quarterback in the league. This is not a surprise, as we all know. When it came to the quarterback legendary stats, it was Drew Brees and Tom Brady going back and forth all day, every day. Now that Drew's done, that just means Tom Brady gets to run away with everything. Goodness gracious, what are we going to see? Did you know nobody born in the state of Vermont has played in the NFL in 20 years? Nobody, no positions. That is wild. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand when I think Vermont, I literally can't think of anything, especially not football. I know most northern states aren't that into football as we are here in the South because football is an outside sport, and if it's cold, you'd not really want to be out there doing much of anything. So, Vermont, I don't know, man. Y'all might need to, somebody could stand out there, easily win state championships and get some scouting done if that's the case, being that, you haven't had anybody come out of there in over 20 years that was good enough for the NFL. Tim Tebow, who we know now is trying to make the roster for tight end with the Jags. He signed with them, but he, got to make the actual final day roster. He last played in an NFL game 3,053 days before that post, so over that amount of time. The record for longest gap between NFL games in the NFL history is over 3,400 days by Tony Adams, who played in 1978, then didn't play again until 1987. What a gap. Like, dude, did you really just almost wait a decade and come back to football? Like, who do you think you are? I don't know, Tony. I don't mean any harm, Tony, I promise. I'm just saying, that's wild. Tim Tebow was actually born in the Philippines, though. Noted. Okay. Fact. The Titans have the most 1,000-yard rushers since 2000 with 16. Not surprised. They had Chris. They have Henry. Makes sense to me. Teddy Bradshaw had elbow surgery in 1983 and told the Steelers that he would be ready to play that year. Because of this, they didn't draft future Hall of Famer quarterback Dan Marino. Bradshaw only played one more game, re-injured his elbow, and retired. Hurt. Oh, the Steelers are hurt. They missed out on Dan Marino because Bradshaw made. Oh, Bradshaw. Oh, you cost them. Shaking my head. 17 of the top 18 picks from the 2018 draft have had their fifth-year options picked up or signed, as an extension. The only exception, Josh Rosen, who, Cardinals swore they loved and were going to start, but nope. Kyler Murray, get in here. Josh, go away. Poor Josh. All right. Trevor Lawrence breaks record for most merchandise ever sold for a pick on draft night, doubling the previous record held by Joe Burrow. I guess, I don't know what's going on these last 2 years. Are people just getting purchase happy? We're just buying stuff just cause, or what? I don't know, but I guess it would have made more sense if it said Tim, because Tim, Jacksonville is his hometown and everything. Playing with his guy, everybody loves Tim Tebow, but I mean Trevor does almost seem like an angel. He might just be a savior for Jacksonville, but we gotta see. I don't want to jump the gun, but we will see. All right, with Alabama having a quarterback, running back, and receiver drafted in the first round, it makes the second time in the common draft era that a school has had all three taken in the first round of the same draft. The other instance happened last year with LSU because Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. All right. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire really finessed it at the end, so they had just got that one. All right. Joe Tryon moved to Southern California last September to train for the NFL draft. And look where he is now. Jason Owe wants to go to Nigeria and help build bridges and roads with a civil engineering degree. So that's what he is going to do. I love hearing that. Gregory Rousseau, DN out of Miami that got drafted, had 15.5 sacks and trailed only Chase Young in 2019. Eric Stokes won state titles in both the 100-meter dash and 200-meter dash. He ran a 10.3 in the 100-meter dash. Sheesh. The kid's fast. Kind of reminds me of somebody else I knew. Peyton Turner gained almost 80 pounds when asked to move to D-tackle coming into college. Houston then wanted to move him back to D-end, so he had to lose 30 pounds in the offseason. Whew, okay. He's doing what he got to do, though. I love that. Rashad Bateman, very skilled receiver, accounted for just under 26% of Minnesota's total receiving yards in his true freshman season. That's a huge impact by a true freshman. Greg Newsome was named after his father and former NFL player Craig Newsome. The nurse, however, made a mistake on the birth certificate after thinking she heard Greg instead of Craig. So that's how Greg Newsome got his name. I'm not gonna lie, if that was me, we would be fixing his name. Absolutely, he would have never grew up just Greg. My little sister, I know her name was spelled wrong on her birth certificate, so I mean it still said the same, I guess, but she spells it different on her work. And then when it comes to actual government stuff, she has to spell it the way it is on the birth certificate. But yeah, man, come on, y'all gotta change that back. Y'all gotta help him out. But I don't know, he probably likes Greg more than Craig anyway. Travis Etienne was originally committed to Texas A&M University before going to Clemson. Why, Travis? Why? I know we're loaded. I know, but why? 25 schools made offers to Najee Harris before he chose Alabama. That's typically how those top guys go that went to Alabama. They usually have, like, every school. All right, and trust me, Najee got 25, and I'm pretty sure they're just counting the top ones. He got some of those smaller ones that no one really expected as well. Christian Darrisaw committed to play college football at Virginia Tech. The only NCAA FBS offer he received, but was assigned by the school to attend Fork Union Military Academy in Fork Union, Virginia for academic reasons before he could get to Virginia Tech. I've seen stuff like that happen before. In Texas, I know Baylor does it. I knew some guys that had to do junior college for 2 years, then got to Baylor. Chris Farley originally intended to be a wide receiver his freshman year at Virginia Tech in 2017, but missed the season due to a knee injury. In high school, he had 10,425 total yards and 124 touchdowns. Sick numbers, dude. Caleb's now in the NFL, as we see. Kwity Paye was born to a Liberian mother on November 19th, 1998. Time is getting closer to the 2000s, isn't it? In a refugee camp in another place during the aftermath of the First Liberian Civil War. Sorry about that. I was in my head, it got stuck because I was really trying to pronounce that, and I just couldn't. Kadarius Toney didn't start playing wide receiver until he arrived on campus at Florida. He was quarterback in high school with a 20-5 record as a starter. This is typically what we see a lot here in the South. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, all the way through to Florida and the Carolinas probably, where, you know, your best player is your quarterback half the time, and they're very athletic. So when it comes to being scouted, sometimes they don't get scouted as a quarterback. Sometimes they get scouted as an athlete. Get moved to DB, get moved to receiver is typically what we see. And that's why in the league you see, the little flip jet sweeps that turn into a pass because, like, oh, you remember he played quarterback, such. Yeah, it's different times, though. Jamin Davis says that his dream job is to be a corporate lawyer. So he's just doing football for fun, clearly. In June 2020, Alex Leatherwood wrote a screenplay for a video he appeared in along with other Alabama players and their head coach, Nick Saban. Look at that talent all around here. Mac Jones, keeping it in the family, coached a sorority flag football team last year. Okay, I see what happened there. You know, I also, too, coached Powder Puff football, some girls in the organization in college, and there's a little tournament we entered, and we won. Okay, that's my coaching story I'm very proud of. My girls fought hard. I do understand the difficulty that my coaches had went through when I was playing football. I see it now. I understand how hard it is. But, you know, you persevere when you got the right people and the right schemes in place. My assistant coach, good pal of mine, we did it. We still hold that up high. That happened like spring 2015. So over 5 years ago, but still very proud. All right. Fact. During his high school career, Xavier Collins had 4,084 rushing yards with 54 touchdowns and passed for 3,056 yards and 32 touchdowns. You see what I'm talking about? Do you see what I'm talking about? These guys are just freak athletes. They got moved around once they got to college. It's wild. Micah Parsons, somebody that's another freak athlete, graduated 7 months early to enroll early at Penn State and get ready, man. Oh, wee. I love to hear stuff like that, man. Focus up for real. Rashad Slater allowed a pressure on just 0.64% of his snaps. Less than 1% of his snaps was pressure allowed. Jesus. Rashawn, great job, man. Another outstanding player when it comes to offensive lineman, Elijah Vera-Tucker, has spent the last several months training with Troy Polamalu. Look at that benefits of being with LSU, man. Who knew Troy Polamalu knew how to coach offensive line, though? Patrick Surtain, the second, won 3 high school football state titles. So, easy come, easy go. Devontae Smith became the first wide receiver to win the AP Player of the Year award since its inception in '98. He also won the 2020 Heisman Trophy, becoming the first wide receiver to win that award since Desmond Howard back in '91. Goodness gracious. All right, Justin Fields' sister played college softball, and his dad also played college football before serving in the Atlanta Police Department for 22 years. So what does that mean? That means sports is in their blood, all right? They are very active, and congrats to them because my family wasn't. I was like the only athlete. My little brother can hoop. I played basketball. I played football, so that's how it went. Jalen Waddle was high school teammates with Marvin Wilson. Penei Sewell is the nephew of former NFL player Isaac Sopoaga and Richard Brown. So another family full of great guys. J.C. Horn was originally committed to play college football at the University of Tennessee. Oh, the way these guys are just switching it up, man. It's crazy. Trey Lance holds the NCAA record for most passing attempts in a season without an interception. Wow. Kyle Pitts had an interception return and 2 forced fumbles for touchdowns as a DN in high school, in a high school championship game. Wow. So he played DN and tight end. He probably did it all, of course. Jamar Chase changed his cleats at halftime of every single game he played in college. I wonder what that's for. Who knows? Did you know Trevor Lawrence is 87-5 as a starting quarterback since his freshman year of high school? Wow, that must mean those 5 hurt really bad, dude. To only lose 5, oh my god, bro, that's almost 100 games total. On its way to in the 90s, and he only lost 5. Oh my god. Okay. Unless the Jaguars go 17-0 this season, Trevor Lawrence is slated to lose his first regular season game of his life. Because those 5 were like playoff games. Of his life, he never lost one in 4 years of high school or during his 3 seasons at Clemson. Wow. Wow. Did you know that Zach Wilson, well, this isn't a surprise, Zach Wilson's uncle, David Neeleman, is the founder of JetBlue, among other airlines. Wow. So many connections in this world. It's great. All right. Time to get out of the young guys, man. Let's get back to some of these older men. Aaron Rodgers-led offense, has never scored under 20 points in the playoffs. I guess, is that a shot at the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes? Is that what I see going on here? I mean, not like they're really, they're rivals or anything. I'm just saying, like, who else do we know scored less than 20 in the Super Bowl? All right. No player drafted since 2015 has been named to more first-team AP All-Pro teams than none other than one of my favorite linemen, Quentin Nelson. Despite Quentin being drafted in 2018, he's still that guy, which is why he always makes my lineman lists, man. Olympian Arthur Blake and NFL player Dexter Carter, Sammy Smith, and Deion Sanders won the 1988 Metro Conference 4x1. Look at that. Who knew that Deion Sanders was out here doing it all? Oh, wait. We all knew. All right. Fact. Before the 1981 NFL draft, Giants players threatened to walk out and go on strike if the team drafted Lawrence Taylor. Taylor sent a message asking the Giants not to draft him so as not to cause a mutiny. And guess what they did? They drafted Lawrence Taylor. In the Super Bowl, which one is it? Oh, Super Bowl 46 against the Giants. Patriots versus the Giants. 66% of Patriots wide receivers who caught a pass in the game had experience kicking against the Patriots. Let me try to read that one more time because I don't know if it made sense to y'all, but it didn't make sense to me. Fact. In Super Bowl 46 against the Giants, 66% of Patriots wide receivers who caught a pass in the game had experience kicking against the Patriots. Are they saying these receivers were kickers? And yeah, we're just going to let that one fly because I'm so confused, y'all. In 1982, Washington tried to buy the number one pick off of the New England Patriots for $2.5 million. Jesus Christ. I need more information. Who was it? Who was the pick? We need to know who they was about to pay for it. What in the world? And not drafts, not players. They're going to pay cash money. The Browns have more wins over the past 3 seasons, which is 25, than they had from 2011 to 2017. Only 24 there. Goodness gracious. Joe Theismann's last name is actually pronounced as Theismann, but changed it to Theismann before his senior year at Notre Dame because it rhymes with Heisman. I don't know, guys. I really don't know how to feel about that one. Only 2 wide receivers have 400 receptions and 25 touchdowns over the last 4 NFL seasons. Can you take a guess who they are? I'll let you think about it for a second. Think. You got your guesses? All right, you get 2. Let's see how many you get right. One of them being DeAndre Hopkins. Okay. The other being Keenan Allen. I bet you didn't get that one. Tricky, right? That was a little tricky. I got to give them their props there, man. All right, let's find one more good one to leave off on. Tony Romo never played a snap where he was already out of playoff contention throughout his entire career. What? I don't even understand that all the way. The Redskins once used 2 first-round picks in consecutive years to draft UCLA running back Kyle Rossi. The first time, he wasn't eligible. The second time, he just didn't want to play professional football. Every single quarterback who is retired and threw pick 6 on their first career attempt is in the Hall of Fame. 44 quarterbacks have gone first, second, and third overall in the last 50 NFL drafts, and exactly 2, Troy Aikman and Peyton Manning, have won Super Bowls starting for the teams that drafted them. Okay. I don't know if I like that one. Let's see here. The 1977 Falcons are the last NFL team to finish the season with the number 1 scoring defense and not make the playoffs. That's tough, but I don't like that one. Give me a good one here. Only 4 quarterbacks in NFL history had a season of 4,000 passing yards and 35 touchdowns within their first 2 years in the league. All right, I'm going to let you get this one. All right, come on. I'm going to read it one more time. This is the one we're going to end on. Let's see how many points. Hopefully you did all right with the receiver one, but this is a good one. This is a good one. It's tricky, and there's a lot of quarterbacks, so I'm going to give you a little bit more time to think about this one. Really, actually, no. It's a podcast, guys. Y'all can pause it. All right? So, I'm going to read it one more time, then pause. All right? Only 4 quarterbacks in the NFL's history have had a season of 4,000 passing yards and 35 touchdowns within their first 2 years in the league. So, first 2 years in the league, and that's what they have. All right? There's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Who are they? Pause now. The 4 individuals are Patrick Mahomes, Kurt Warner, Dan Marino, and Blake Bortles. Oh, I know you didn't get Blake Bortles unless you're a Jacksonville fan and do these stats. Oh, man, it's wild. But fun facts are always fun for sure. I know I enjoy them. I hope you do too. I hope you learned something or, just had a good laugh, if anything, man. But that's all I got for you today. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you sticking around, man. Checking me out. Listen to what I have to say. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Leave some reviews. Let me know what you think of the show. And, of course, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, GSMC_football, man. We'll chat it up with you. Just add us, ask some questions if need be, and we'll get back with you, man. All right? Hey, looking forward to seeing what the show will be next episode. I know it's going to be a good one, so come back, all right? Everybody have a good day, good night. Wherever you're at, just farewell.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.